Hey boys and girls, it's Miss Yelton again, and we're going to do a quick little review of what we had learned about fractions while we were still in school. So if you remember, we got these brand new fraction tiles and they were awesome, and we're going to work a little bit with them today. So the blue one here has a 1 on it because it represents one whole. So this rectangle is one whole. Now if we break it up into two pieces, what are those two pieces called? Say it now. I hope you said halves or 1/2, because 2 halves make a whole. Now, who remembers when we have 3 pieces, what those pieces are called, what each fractional unit is called? We call them fractional units. Each one is called a, say it, hope you said third. Each piece would be 1/3. So 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 is 3/3. And remember, 3/3 is also the same as a whole. It's kind of hard to see. Need some light. That helps a little bit. And now we're going to move on to 4 pieces. When we have 4 pieces, what is each piece called, or what's the fractional unit? Say it. I hope you said 1/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So 4/4 equals a whole. And I wish you could have these in your hands right now, but you'll just have to look at mine while I'm doing this one. Now, if we had 5 pieces, which we don't see this one a lot, but sometimes we do, each piece is a 5th. Okay, and I could go on down with 6ths and 7ths and 8ths, and we have 10ths here and 12ths, but I'm going to stop there because I'm going to clear them off, and I want you to think about if I had 2 halves and I halved my half. What is half of a half? Say it if you know it. I hope you just said 1/4, because 2/4 is the same as 1/2. Now let's move this out of the way, and I wonder if you can tell me how many 8ths is the same as a half. And if you remember, the top number on a fraction is called the numerator, and the bottom number is called the denominator. So 1/2 is equal to, how would we say this yellow fraction? It would be 2 pieces, and each piece is a 4th, so 2/4. And remember, before, when we were still in school, we learned that if the numerator is half of the denominator, it's equal to a half, always. So 2/4 is also equal to a half. So what about 8ths? How many 8ths is going to be equal to a half? Can you say it if you know it? And I hope that you said 4. 4/8 is also the same as a half, because 4 is exactly half of 8. I'm running out of room here. Let's do another one. Let's do 10ths. How many 10ths? And I have 1/10 here. So how many 10ths? And remember, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the piece, because it's divided more ways. How many 10ths is equal to a half? I hope you said 5/10, because 5/10 is equal to a half. Now, one that we skipped was, I'm going to have to start a new row down here. How many 6ths is going to be equal to a half? How many 6ths? There's a 6. It's a little bit bigger than a 10th because the denominator is smaller, the piece is bigger. And I hope that you knew it was going to be 3/6. 3/6 is the same as a 10th. And the last one we're going to do here, that's equal to a half, Let's also do twelfths. How many twelfths? Now, do you think the 12th piece is going to be bigger than a sixth or smaller? Hope you said smaller because the denominator is bigger. So there is a 12th, and it takes 2 twelfths to equal 1 sixth. So how many twelfths is it going to take to equal 3 sixths? If it takes 2 to equal 1 sixth, and 2 more to equal another sixth, and then 2 more to equal another sixth, that's going to give you 6 twelfths is equal to 1/2. Now let me clear this away and let's do a different one. Let's do 1/3. How many sixths do you think would be equal to 1/3? Now when I look at this, I see that 3 is half of 6. What is 1/2 of? I hope you said 2. Because 2 sixths is the same as 1/3. And we can also look at the fraction and multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number to get an equivalent fraction. If we multiply 1 times 2, we get 2. And 3 times 2, let me write that up there, it equals 6. So that's how we find fractions that are the same size. So would you rather have 1/3 of a candy bar or 2 sixths of a candy bar? It really doesn't matter, does it? Because they are the same size. Okay, now I want you to pause the video for a second and grab a scrap piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, turn a piece of paper over from your packet that you can use the back of. I forgot to say get a pencil. I hope you have a pencil or a marker or something to write with. And we're just going to work just a minute on writing up some of those fractions or drawing some of those fractions. So the easiest way when you're trying to draw up equivalent fractions is to make fraction bars. So always make a pretty wide rectangle like this and then divide it in the middle like this. Okay, so let's take the top one and let's say it's a whole and let's divide it in half. And you just kind of have to eyeball it. Where would the middle be? Probably about here. You might need to use a pencil in case you need to erase it and fix it. Now we always do what? Label the fractional units. So 1/2 and 1/2. Now what I want you to do with the bottom bar is to make it into fourths. So to make it into fourths, I'm going to switch to a pencil now so you can see it better. First, we're going to divide in half, and then we're going to half each half because 2/4 is equal to 1/2. So now that we have 4 pieces, remember 3 lines equals 4 pieces, we are going to label each piece. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. Oh, whoops. 1/4. So 4/4. Let's write that over to the side. 4/4, 2 halves. And they both equal 1 whole. Okay, let's try another one. I'll try to make this one a little bit neater down here. Let's do a rectangle. Okay, you go ahead and make your rectangle. And you can press pause if you need to catch up. Divide it in half as best you can. Now we're going to take the top one and we're going to divide it into thirds. Now for thirds, we have to think. I want it to be 3 equal pieces. 3 equal pieces. So I just going to have to eyeball it because I want my pieces to be as equal as I can. So I can't fold. Maybe, how does that look? Does that look like thirds? Pretty close. So let's label each one. 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Okay, now we're going to take our bottom rectangle and we're going to divide it into sixths. That was kind of hard to say, sixths. So first we're going to divide it into thirds because as you remember with the blocks, with the fraction tiles, 1/6 is half of a third. So if we half a third, we get a 6. So 2/6 is 1/3. So we're going to do that same thing up here in our box. We're going to make the bottom rectangle into thirds, and then we're going to half each third. And when we do that, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So let's label each one. 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6. We always label all of them. Now, here's the question I have for you. This one's a little different. Below your drawing, I want you to write 2/3 is equal to how many sixths? That's going to be our unknown. Let's put a box there so we know that's our unknown. And with another color or a pencil, I'm going to shade my 2/3. So you go ahead and shade your 2/3. We're not looking at the whole this time, just 2/3. So our question is, how many sixths is equal to 2/3? So there's my 2/3. How many sixths? So we're going to go to the bottom rectangle. It's filled up with sixths. And we're going to shade this the same amount. How many sixths did we shade? How many pieces? How many 1/6 pieces did we shade? You should have 4. 2/3 is equal to 4/6. And we can check that by making sure that both the numerator and denominator are multiplied by the same number. 3 times what is 6? 3 times 2. We actually doubled 3 to get 6. 2 times what is 4? 2 times 2 is 4. So we doubled the 2 to get 4, and we doubled the 3 to get 6. So 2/3 is the same as 4/6. Practice some more if you want to, and we'll have another video like this tomorrow, maybe even doing some harder ones.